I think really since ChatGPT exploded on the scene a couple of years ago, people have been trying to marry crypto and AI and talk about how they go together, the, the, the synergies, etc. But it looks like it's finally happening. We are Coinbase made a lot of waves, I think, last year, November, during one of their product demo days. And I don't even think this was one of the big products that they were launching, but with their X402 payment standard for agentic commerce. Tempo just went live with the mainnet with its own machine to machine payments protocol. And everyone is talking about agentic commerce and bots transacting with each other at the behest of humans for all sorts of reasons and use cases. So I'd like to just kind of throw it to you, kind of open ended, Lorenz. I mean, what are you seeing in terms of agentic commerce? Like, what are your expectations for how this sector can grow, and perhaps most importantly, uh, with many different offerings now out there, what do you think is going to sort of delineate or demarcate the winners from the losers?
Great question. I would say that something very important to note here is that if agentic commerce is going to, let's say, revolutionize the way we're doing things, is that they need robust pricing and proper pricing mechanisms, because some of these agents, they operate at their own peril, and if they start doing transactions that are worth $1 at 3 cents, you're gonna lose a lot of money, or you're gonna make a lot of money regardless of which counterparty you are. And in terms of how the market can grow, it's I think it goes hand in hand with how stablecoins are growing and how they are being used in terms of um, on-chain capabilities. And it's $1 trillion market. There's multiple researches also done by McKinsey, I believe. There's probably more out there. We've seen Coinbase's X402 processing $34 million in volume. Google is launching a payments protocol. So everyone's trying to jump on the hype train, and it's going to be very interesting to see how that converges alongside stablecoins, because in 2025, we saw 33 trillion in stablecoin volume. That was all done by humans, or probably mostly done by humans. So it's very interesting to see how that is, or very interesting to observe how that's going to grow as we see more agentic payments launch, and how that's going to slot into TradFi, as well as crypto, as well as just e-commerce in general.
Yeah. It's one of the things that I'm trying to track, and I would imagine you might be as well, is really figuring out how to um, get a real sense of activity, like upticks in activity when it comes to these types of bots. Because like, if you create some basic bot on Claude or Chat GPT or whoever, I'm not a coder, so I'm not really able to go too deep into this. You might create like I'll make a task for something I'm doing in SharpLink, and it'll create 10 different bots for me doing 10 different things simultaneously. And then once it's done, it goes away. Like we'll look at something like network addresses. Like that's a common metric that we try to use to understand actual usage of a blockchain like Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin, whatever. I could see like an exponential increase in new wallets, new addresses, but they're not persistent, and they don't go on forever. And when it comes to stable coins too, like you can make it you could say, well, these new types of blockchains with micropayments through stable coins, a lot more payment volume, but the value may, like, unless there's going to be new use cases that were not priorly viable before agentic commerce, like you may not necessarily see a huge surge in volume. Uh, what are you like? How do you think about this problem? Like, what are some of the numbers or metrics that you think will be really helpful in sort of getting a sense of true adoption of agentic commerce?
L- I would say looking at unique addresses, looking at how these transactions are conducted, where they're going. Is it just like spam being conducted to inflate numbers, right? I saw a paper saying recently that the volumes on Well, the unique addresses on USDT are a lot different compared to those on USDC. So that's all metrics we're looking at via blockchain monitoring, a solution we built to look on chain. But what I would also look at is how can we use these agents to actually, like you mentioned, do something that previously wasn't possible, right? Do we really need these agents right now? Is it actually useful for us to use them? Because I might just do it myself. Uh, I might just order whatever I want to order myself. If we're talking about trading, that becomes a whole other thing, right? Because you can start automating your system, you can start automating strategies, you can do a lot more things on chain, especially the way blockchain is interoperable with AI. So that opens two different pathways in the sense that, from a, let's say, a retail perspective, is it useful for me to put an agent on this? Does that agent need to do transactions for me? And on the other hand, you would have to, let's say, from a trader perspective, how can I automate this strategy? How can I make sure that agent isn't going to make any mistakes for me? And how can I make my life easier and more, let's say, put it on autopilot from that point of view?
Yeah, because the last thing you'd ever want is one of your agents, like, accidentally revealing a private key or I was reading some things about, like, at some point, the Nigerian prince scam is gonna come for AI agents, and some benevolent agent is gonna wanna say, "Here, I'll help. Here's $500,000 of USDC," and what do you do then?